Welcome to Fit After 40, the Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, certified personal trainer and menopause coaching specialist. I've worked with hundreds of clients over the past 12 years and know firsthand how intimidating starting a fitness routine can be, especially in perimenopause. My goal is to teach women in midlife and beyond how to feel strong and confident in their bodies and to help them live the healthy life they deserve, free of pain, heart disease, dementia, frailty, you name it. In this show, you'll get action steps you can take today, backed by the most up-to-date research and thousands of hours of practical in-gym experience. The best time to get started may have been 20 years ago, but the second best time to get started is today. Hello, and welcome to the Fit After 40 Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, certified personal trainer and menopause coaching specialist, and I am, as always, delighted to be here with you on this very day, whatever day it is. It doesn't really matter. I'm happy to be here whenever. I am going to just jump right in today and skip life updates because, well, little life. I lied. It's 36 in Minnesota right now, 36 degrees, which some of you who are not in Minnesota are like, oh my gosh, terrifyingly cold. And to those of us in Minnesota, we're like spring break because this weekend was sub-zero. Basically, my dog is ready to walk for hours and hours. I can't say the word because he's going to go ham. Basically, there will be chaos. So he's itching to get outside. And honestly, after this weekend, I did go outside to walk him, but I didn't spend too much time outside. So I, too, am looking forward to this walk. So we're just going to jump right in. I don't know if you could hear that in the background. He just dropped a ball for me to play with. So, hey, little guy, I'll be with you shortly. Plus, I'm just so stinking excited about today's episode. I was having a conversation with a client the other day about the importance of muscle in menopause. Go figure. And I told her that she should, if she was interested in like deep diving more, to check out a podcast episode here. And then she asked me if I had a specific episode in mind that I recommended. And I realized that strangely, we don't have a singular episode dedicated to muscle and menopause. We talk about it a lot in relationship to many other topics, but it's never received its time in the spotlight as its own solo ep. So this week, we're changing all that. Let's talk about why we must have muscle on our frame as we travel through perimenopause and beyond if we are looking for a smoother transition and an extended health span. If you are like so many of the women I work with in Fit After 40, and just in all the years in the past, there's probably a pretty decent chance if you're in that, like, honestly, starting at like 35, 40s, 50s, up until that 60, experienced one or more menopausal symptoms. You probably have questioned even, am I in menopause? Or is this just menopause, or is this who I am now, right? Is this the forever me? You might have asked yourself, what's happened to my sleep, my body, my brain, my energy, my mood, etc. It feels like I just woke up one day and it was totally unrecognizable to who I was the day before. It just changed overnight. You might be asking, why do I feel tired all the time? Why does my body always hurt? What is happening, right? Women can spend upwards of 20 years in the menopausal transition. Not everyone, but say what? Yeah, yepers. For some people, perimenopause can start in mid-30s and they can experience 10 years in their perimenopausal transition. They hit that day of menopause and then they spend 10 years transitioning on the other side. That's on the longer end, but it's not unheard of. Again, everybody's body is totally different in the menopausal transition because on the other hand, there are a handful of women who report never having experienced any symptoms that they can report back to menopause. So it's going to be incredibly individualized. But as always, it's good to know about because a lot of things we don't expect can pop up in menopause. A lot of things that are just happening and changing our bodies can actually be tied back to menopause. But whether you are a woman who is riddled with uncontrollable hot flushes, mood swings, libido drops, aches and pains that are just popping up what feel like all over the place, or you're just moseying along your day-to-day business as usual and maybe your period stopped a year ago and suddenly you're in menopause, it doesn't necessarily matter what your transition looks like. Every single body benefits from putting muscle on our frame as we age, especially in menopause. But this goes for men too. Having muscle on our frame is bulletproofing that health span. Muscle is our body's largest organ. It is responsible for helping keep us strong, reactive, and independent as we age, as well as bolstering our immune system, helping promote bone health and support a healthy metabolism, and it helps to regulate blood sugar, even in diabetic patients. So today, my goal is to convince you of the 6 irrefutable reasons that we have to prioritize muscle in perimenopause and beyond if we want a smoother transition and extend our health span. So let's dive in. I just recently finished Dr. Mary Claire Haver's book, The New Menopause. Great book. The final section of the book is 110 pages long, and it covers a vast array of symptoms that occur in menopause, what fluctuations in hormones lead to said symptoms, and solutions to help alleviate and support your body through each of those individual symptoms. I saw 2 reoccurring themes time and again in this symptom portion. First, a large majority of these symptoms were directly related or believed to have a correlation with the drop in estrogen. I say believed to because there's still a lot of study that needs to be done in certain symptoms. Some have been studied better, but they are related to drops in estrogen as we travel through perimenopause. The second big reoccurring theme, off the top of my head, I actually can't think of a single symptom where she mentioned that moving our body and getting muscle on our frame did not benefit us. So why? To quote another menopause and body hero, Dr. Gabby Lyon, author of Forever Strong, a banger of a book. She also created muscle-centric medicine. She refers to it as thus: muscle is our body armor, and that it is. In the case of perimenopause, this is even more true. Estrogen, our sex hormone, in a balanced HPO axis in our reproductive years, plays a major role in almost every aspect of our physiology. While it is indeed a sex organ, there are estrogen receptors everywhere in our body. Everywhere. So as we start to lose estrogen and it becomes more imbalanced as we stop ovulating and we become more estrogen dominant, because when we stop ovulating, we don't produce progesterone, a variety of symptoms, over 100, can start showing up all over our body as a result. This is perimenopause. Clarification. When I say estrogen dominant, in this case, it doesn't mean that we're making excess estrogen. It just means that, like I said, when we stop ovulating, our body doesn't produce progesterone. So the estrogen is left unchecked and our hormonal balance is just flown out of whack. So today, I want to really zone in specifically on how muscle can sweep in to save the day in relationship to picking up the slack that disappearing estrogen leaves behind in the wake of perimenopause. So how do we use muscle to therapeutically help with the loss of estrogen? So number 1, when it comes to muscle themselves, the muscle body, etc., estrogen is responsible in assisting the quality of our muscle. So strength and power, but even in the mass and size of muscle itself. It also helps to maintain lubrication and elasticity in our tendons, ligaments, and joints. More on this in a moment. Our peak muscle mass as humans without preservation, so therapeutic techniques like resistance training and protein, is roughly at age 30. So our muscles peak at age 30. After 30, we start to see a loss in muscle mass if we are not working to build and maintain it. As women, that loss can greatly accelerate in our perimenopausal phase to the tune of 8 to 15% loss of our skeletal muscle mass in perimenopause alone. 8 to 15% of our muscle mass in perimenopause alone. That's a huge amount. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll realize after we talk about the other 5 reasons why it's going to be so important to protect that loss. But this doesn't just affect my friends with ovaries, right? Muscle loss happens to everybody as we age. So all adults start to see roughly a 1 to 2% decrease in muscle mass every single year up until our 70s, when we start to see an even more dramatic drop-off rate. This is one of the major components that leads to frailty. One meta-analysis of nearly 10,000 postmenopausal women showed that The participants who were on hormone therapy had a slightly greater strength than those not on hormone therapy. Such results pointed towards the hypothesis that estrogen is a key ovarian hormone that affects muscle strength in women. So hopefully by the end of this episode, you will be convinced to, at the very least, if not, start resistance training immediately, jumping on the wait list of Fit After 40. More on that in a minute. Start exploring a little bit more about how to put muscle on your frame. But getting those wheels turning on starting out, right? At least right now, though, all I want you to take away in this first point is that the very quality and quantity of our muscle is affected by our hormonal reprofiling in perimenopause. As estrogen declines, so too does the quality of our muscle. One last important thing to note here before we move on is oftentimes we're misled into thinking that our metabolism decreases as we age. We've talked about this before, but it's important to note here as we talk about muscle. The truth is, there's no significant deceleration in our metabolism until our late 60s generally. The reason that most adults start to experience changes in their body composition is mistaken as a slow metabolism, but in truth, it's tied to our age-related loss of muscle. Again, we'll talk more about this in a second, but as that reminder, muscle is our most calorically dense tissue. When we lose muscle, our basal metabolic rate, also referred to as BMR, drops. So we start to burn less and less calories at rest. We also, as adults, have a tendency to become more and more sedentary, leading to even less expenditure throughout the day, energy expenditure rather. So it isn't that our metabolism is slowing because we're getting older. We've just not been taught the importance of prioritizing muscle outside of like talking about it as unrealistic and unhealthy, like aesthetic goals, right? Nor have we been taught in society, really, the power of movement as literal medicine against almost every form of chronic disease and illness, from heart disease to type 2 diabetes to dementia to cancer and beyond. Okay, moving on to number 2, why we need to have muscle through perimenopause. Muscle improves metabolic rate. So we just touched on the first reason, right? Muscle increases that BMR, the amount of energy that it takes to literally just exist, right? It takes fuel to make our heart pump, to use our eyes, to fire our central nervous system, all of it, to run to breathe, right? That all takes energy. So that brings us to why. Why is there this increase in BMR if we have more muscle? As we said, muscle is the most calorically expensive tissue that we have. So it takes more calories to fuel a body with muscle. The more muscles you have, the more calories you burn at rest. Post-exercise alone, our muscles will continue to utilize calories because calories are our body's energy anywhere from 24 to 48 hours post-workout when we're looking at strength training. Strength training and developing muscles, another big piece of the metabolic equation. Strength training and developing muscles also help to target reduction of visceral fat. So that's going to be that deep belly fat around your internal organs, like the liver, the intestines, and the pancreas. It's the one where you go to pinch it and you can't really pinch it. It's really tight. It makes the midsection feel hard. Newsflash, before I dive in, this is 1,000% not me pushing skinny culture. It is me pushing health culture because visceral fat is incredibly dangerous. It is metabolically active. It releases harmful inflammatory chemicals that significantly increase risks for type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and stroke. So the more that we can get this under control, the healthier your system is going to be overall. Women, we tend to see an increase in visceral fat in perimenopause because estrogen, here it comes again, during our reproductive years, helps to store excess fat into our butt and our hips so that it keeps the womb space open and safe for potentially growing a kiddo. As we experience that drop in estrogen as a result of perimenopause, which happens, remember, perimenopause happens as a result of our ovaries starting to go offline, we begin to store fat more like men, viscerally and in our midsection. It's also an incredibly stubborn tissue to get rid of. Visceral fat is because it's metabolically active. It uses energy. So it can be a really tricky thing. Unfortunately, you can't just do a million crunches and then spot reduce, right? We have to approach it through muscle gain, high protein, quality fiber nutrition, and possibly some people might find that they benefit from intervention with menopause hormone therapy and even a GLP-1 if you're doing all the quote unquote right things, but you're experiencing weight loss resistance. So that's a whole other conversation. The good news is starting with building muscle is a wonderful place to start and is going to be hugely beneficial and is a non-negotiable no matter what, right? Because even if we're losing weight without exercise, we've talked about this a ton, when we lose weight and we're not resistance training, we're losing muscle. So we're starting to drop that BMR and we're getting rid of all of its other health benefits. Visceral fat, however, is not the only culprit when it comes to body comp changes in perimenopause. So let's chat number 3 of our irrefutable reasons for having muscle on our frame. Muscle helps with blood sugar stabilization. What? Estrogen, during our premenopause years, also helps with blood sugar stabilization by increasing our insulin sensitivity and helps protect us from type 2 diabetes. A study published by the American Diabetes Association points out premenopausal women exhibit enhanced insulin sensitivity and reduced incidence of type 2 diabetes compared with age-matched men. But this advantage disappears after menopause, which disrupts glucose homeostasis, in part owing in reduction to the circulating estradiol, aka the form of estrogen that's related to our ovaries. Another paper titled Increasing Muscle Mass to Improve Metabolism offers that skeletal muscle is a crucial tissue for maintaining blood glucose control and energy balance. And it's a predictor of development of type 2 diabetes, and maintenance of adequate muscle glucose disposal in muscle may actually help to prevent diabetes. So the more sugar we can move out of the blood into the muscle can help prevent diabetes, and actually has been shown too to help be a therapeutic agent when we are struggling with diabetes. The American Diabetes Association also states that when your muscles contract during activity, exercise, your muscle cells are able to uptake glucose to use for energy, whether or not insulin is available. This brings 2 exciting facts to light to me. 1, your muscle is able to pull glucose out of your bloodstream without insulin. So even if as part of peri or postmenopause, you've developed insulin resistance and your blood sugar is behaving closer to that of a diabetic, we're becoming more insulin resistant, right? We're not able to clear and stabilize blood sugar. Muscle can clear excess blood sugar despite that insulin resistance, helping to balance the levels of blood sugar. The second big piece, and very exciting piece, our muscles act as storage units for glucose. Like little, little storage units for glucose. I was going to draw a mental picture, but you know what I'm talking about. Unlike sugar storage in the liver, which also stores glucose, the glucose, once it's been moved into your muscles, is stuck there. And it can't be re-entered into the bloodstream to wreak more metabolic havoc. So once it's in the muscle, it can't come back out. Versus when it's in the liver, it can be recirculated through your blood. So it gets trapped in the muscle and used later. Pretty amazing. It's just like a lovely little Hoover vacuum. Okay, number 4. Muscle assists with bone health. The importance of bone health is its whole other conversation on its own. But for the purposes today, let's talk about bone's relationship to muscle and bone's relationship to estrogen. Bone and muscle are partners in crime and deeply connected, literally. With the loss of estrogen, we can see a significant decrease in our bone mass, especially if we're genetically predisposed to have osteoporosis. Little bit of a tangent. This is one of the many reasons, period, but especially going into perimenopause, that it's super duper important to know our family's medical history if that is available to us. Obviously, we don't have all have access to it, but if it is, lock it in. This is going to be hugely determinant of a lot of factors. Currently, for example, the strongest indication of when we'll hit menopause and what our symptoms could look like are based on genetics. What? Okay, back to bones. Like muscle, we start to lose bones as we age. So everybody is going to experience bone loss. But the loss of bone is more significant in women. 80% of people with osteoporosis are women. This is another reason in itself why it is so important to weight lift. Lifting load challenges adaptation within our bones and can lead to bone sparing and even growth. So the good news is not all is lost. We can rebuild bone, and that is outstanding news. I love good news. So estrogen drops, we lose bone. How does muscle help? Great question. When muscles contract, they pull on the tendon, which then pulls on the bone, creating tension and stress that stimulates bone-building cells and encourages bone growth. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And another important factor, the quality of muscle is directly correlated to our quality of bone. So when we build in practices to build and support muscle, so too do we build in practices that support bone. Huzzah! We love to hear it. Number 5, muscle improves immune function and lowers risk of chronic disease. This one is huge and maybe one of the most mind-boggling. One of estrogen's many superpowers in our reproductive years is its anti-inflammatory properties. With the drop of estrogen in perimenopause, we start to see a rise in systematic inflammation, which means we are less able to fight off illnesses, along with a slew of other things that happen when inflammation overtakes our body. When muscles contract during exercise, they release cytokines that signal the immune system. These molecules help control inflammation. They prevent chronic inflammation that weakens immunity and promote the movement of immune cells. An article in the Frontier of Physiology also points out that since the 1970s, many studies have showed the importance of regular exercise and physical activity in increasing the body's ability to fight opportunistic infections, as well as a strategy to fight established diseases. That's exercise, building muscle. Huzzah! The interaction was mainly attributed to the glutamine, a non-essential amino acid, so an amino acid, produced by active skeletal muscle and primarily consumed by rapidly dividing cells, including lymphocytes, which are crucial white blood cells. So think B cells, T cells, natural killer cells in our immune system. And monocytes and macrophages, which are key immune cells in our mononuclear phagocyte system that originate from our bone marrow. So our bone also is important for our immune system. There's that bone health again. But those glutamine are the main source of energy for both the lymphocytes and monocytes, macrophages. And that's not all. This paper goes on to state that skeletal muscle is an essential source of interleukin-6 with anti-inflammatory properties, regulating the function of the immune cells after tissue injury and the healing process. So who knew? Who knew that muscle was for so much more than wearing that super sexy strapless dress at our daughter's wedding, right? It's also an endocrine organ. An endocrine organ and a major immune system protector. This is huge. Not to mention, with the regulation of blood sugar, excess blood sugar causes inflammation in the body as well. So getting that blood sugar more regulated just naturally starts to bring down inflammation as well. The last piece that I am arguing that it is irrefutable that we need to have muscle on our frame as we head into perimenopause and beyond, no matter what age, we can get started at any age, is for better mobility and balance. You might be thinking like, what? This sounds kind of lame compared to all those heavy hitters you hit. Stay tuned. At the end, we'll explain why this one is super duper important. So, one of the most common symptoms associated with peri and postmenopause is musculoskeletal pain, including aching, stiffness, sharp and burning pain, muscle spasms, weakness, reduced movement, often with swelling, redness, warmth, disrupting sleep and daily function and affecting bones, muscles, joints, ligaments, and tendons. It can just really bring down the day, right? Frozen shoulder, that's a pretty common thing as well. Muscles help with mobility on their own by helping support through the joints, keeping proper alignment in our skeleton, and the act of strengthening muscles can help to maintain and develop mobility. So mobility is the unassisted control that we have over a joint. Flexibility is like I can lift my leg over my head because I'm assisting it with my hand, I'm holding it, I'm flexible. Mobility is the I'm not using anything. This is the range of motion my joint is able to move through actively on its own with control. Mobility is very much a move it or lose it situation, and a little goes a long way. This month, every month in Fit After 40 small group personal training, we do a specialized workshop that deep dives on educational portions of perimenopause and beyond. Last month, we focused in on all the benefits of protein and so much more. This month is menopause and mobility. It is a huge, we might do a podcast episode on it because it's that big of a deal. I always say that we need to strength train, and to be better at strength training, we need to mobilize, right? It keeps our joints healthy. It also allows us to get into better ranges of motion, better results down the line. And it just keeps our skeleton healthy for forever. We've also started adding into Fit After 40 mobility Sundays, partially because I know how important mobility is. But when your week is full, one of the hardest things for this kid is to fit in mobility. So selfishly, and for all of my clients who are feeling very much the same, where they know they need to be mobilizing, but they just can't fit it in their schedule, we're doing a Sunday mobility session. So it's important. So what about balance? One paper titled Balance in Transition, Unraveling the Link Between Menopause and Vertigo does a great job of breaking down the relationship between estrogen and balance. It says the intricate dance between estrogen and the central nervous system involves the modulation of neurotransmitters, neural plasticity, and neural protection. As estrogen levels decline, these processes may be disrupted, potentially impacting the delicate equilibrium of the vestibular system, so our balancing system. The vestibular system, comprising the inner ear and associated neural pathways, brain pathways, plays a crucial role in maintaining balance and spatial orientation. Estrogen receptors within the vestibular system, that's right, we even have estrogen receptors in our ear. I told you they were everywhere. Suggests a direct hormonal influence on the balance system's function. Reduced estrogen levels during menopause may lead to changes in the vestibular sensitivity and response, aka balance, potentially contributing to the onset of vertigo. So this could contribute to vertigo. So even just like basic balance, we can see how that would start to come offline. When we're thinking of muscle and its relationship to balance, strong, well-developed muscles in your legs, hips, and core provide power to maintain an upright posture and resist forces that would normally topple us over. We talk about it all the time here, but the majority of exercise is actually training our nervous system. That's why in Fit After 40 small group personal training, everybody starts on month 1 focusing on balance stabilization. We just won't just throw you under a barbell. We make sure you can balance on one leg and balance on one leg correctly. I've yet in my 12 years of coaching to see a body walk into a session without a couple of movement imbalances. Again, we talk about this all the time. Getting started the right way is what guarantees staying in the game and not injuring out. Also, not burning out. If you are interested in Fit After 40, if you're like, you know what, I'm done just sort of guessing at how to get started, check out the show notes. I just opened up the wait list for our January cohorts. If you're in the Twin Cities, definitely check it out. We also will maybe be taking 1 or 2 people into the online. So if you are interested in that, join the wait list and we will chat about it. Anywho, training our nervous system means that we are establishing a connection between our brain and our muscles. So when we start to wobble, muscles contract quickly and correctly to shift our weight and return us to equilibrium, preventing falls, versus rolling an ankle and breaking a hip because we stepped wrong off a curb, right? That happens all the time. I hear stories about how people injure their shoulder, injure their ankle, injure their knee, their hip because of something outside the gym, stepping off a curb, tripping over a dog toy, tripping over the edge of a rug, right? All these little lifestyle things. When we are doing this nervous system training, we're not just teaching our bodies how to move well under load. We're teaching them how to catch ourselves and not get injured in day-to-day life. And let's just take a beat right here. And this is why I said this is so important, to remind ourselves why the heck it is so important to work and prioritize on fall prevention. The stats around people over the age of 65 falling are pretty harrowing. So falls are the leading cause of injury for folks 65 plus, looking at like 1 in 4 adults. These are stats from the CDC. Falls are also the leading cause of injury-related death. In 2021 alone, falls caused 38,000 deaths. So that's an average of over 100 deaths a day due to falling. On top of that, 20 to 30% of people 70 and older who fall and break a hip will die within the year. I always say that exercise is preventative healthcare, and when it comes to preventing falls and building strong enough bones to withstand inevitable falls without shattering your bones, you are truly investing and saving money in the long run. In 2020, non-fatal adults totaled about 2020, non-fatal older adult falls totaled about $80 billion in healthcare costs. That was 2020. 80 billion. Can you imagine what that's like in 2025 with inflation? That is a lot of money spent on something that we can be preventing by building up that bone density. Falling once also doubles the risk of falling again. So it just ends up snowballing. If we can get ahead of this with balance training that nervous system, building muscle, building bone, building power so that we can dynamically catch ourselves, we are setting ourselves up for so much, not just success, but quality of life. And we can start putting money instead towards fall bills, towards traveling, or smaller bills because we didn't shatter a hip, we just sprained an ankle, right? It's hard to hypothetically convince someone that they are being proactive in hypothetical healthcare. But if we take a second and think about people in our lives, every single one of us probably knows someone who has fallen, and either injured themselves a little bit or maybe even worse, right? I know I have a couple family members who have ended up in hospice from falls. So it is worth doing the work now so that that life on the other side can be vibrant, full, and you're the one calling the shots. Alrighty, my friends, there you have it. My 6 irrefutable reasons we have to prioritize building muscle in perimenopause and beyond if we want that smoother transition and extended health span. The coolest part? This was just the benefits of building muscle. So just the benefits directly correlated to muscle. And muscle is the benefit of resistance training. Resistance training on its own comes with even more benefits. Think mood enhancement, cognitive health, heart health, and more. The even cooler news, and I know it gets even cooler, is that if we can start to set ourselves up for these benefits with as little as 2 days of lifting each week. The trick is that we have to do it in a systematic, progressive way that allows us to build and maintain muscle to actually reap the benefits of that training. And this is easier said than done. I've done it wrong in the past. I have all of my clients who have come to me being like, I'm banging my heads and I don't know where to get started, or I've been doing the same thing and I don't see results. Like I said, there's a lot of noise out there today. It can be very confusing on what the information is. Because the truth is, if you're like so many of the women I've worked with in the past decade, you know theoretically what you should be doing. We know we should be lifting weight. We know we probably should be prioritizing protein at this point, fiber, hydrating, sleeping. But again, the issue these days isn't that we don't have the information anymore. It's that we have too much information. And a lot of times it's conflicting information, right? It only counts if you lift super heavy versus we need to be really careful lifting weights as we age. Or protein from meat is the only way to build muscle versus meat gives you cancer. Or we can't lift any weight if we're injured versus the only way to combat chronic pain is to lift heavier weight. So I get it. I've been in the industry, like I said, over a decade, and there's so much noise that it leaves my head spinning sometimes. That is exactly exactly why I created Fit After 40 small group personal training. Not only as we get older does the margin of error to injury get smaller, we also just don't have time like we did in our 20s to throw things at a wall and hope it sticks, right? I want to take the guesswork out of it for you. I want to get you started the right way, and I want to teach you how to move so you're moving safely. Stop wasting your time, your precious, precious time trying to shift through the fact versus fad. Stop throwing money away on another crash diet or 30-day workout program that just falls off the rails because it's too hard to sustain, and get started the right way once and for all. Not just with systematically programmed workouts, but with workouts that are executed specifically with your body in mind. Fit After 40 small group personal training is not a one-size-fits-all group fitness class. It is a personal training session with 3 to 4 friends. Everybody's workout in sessions are custom tailored to their body, to their experience, and to their goals. As one of my amazing clients put it today, it helps crush my health and aging goals without crushing me. And I love that. I live for that. That's music to my ears. I want you to crush your goals, but I don't want you to be crushed by your workout. We're coming out on top, baby. Like I said, waitlist is open for January enrollment, so definitely check it out in the show notes, especially if you're in the Twin Cities. It is a commitment-free waitlist, so even if you're like, I don't really know, but I guess I want to stay informed, you get first access to the spots. You save big old discount on the first session, you get a bonus sign-up discount. And even if you decide it's not for you right now, you get a ton of free high-quality menopause and muscle info sent directly into your inbox in the meantime. So there's nothing to lose. All right, my friends, what a delight it was to sit here with you today and actually dive in to muscle and menopause. I sure hope this got you thinking. At best, I hope it got you convinced that you got to start strength training the right way. If you have any follow-up questions, shoot me an email, kinsey@fitafter40.info, or find me on Instagram, kinsey.does.the.fitness. And if you have any ideas that you have for the podcast or any other fitness and nutrition, etc., wellness questions, please, please, please hit me up. I love hearing what you're thinking about. Because again, if you have the question, you better believe somebody else also has that question. So you're doing everyone a favor. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to listen. If there is a person in your life who you think could benefit from this, or a friend who you've been talking about, should we strength train? Should we not? Send it to your potential workout buddy. Get them excited. Like, share. If you loved it, 5-star review, maybe even a little review below. If you don't love it, let me know in that email, and I'll give you some other podcasts to listen to. You are the best. I will see you next time. And in the meantime, take care of those amazing bodies and brains. You are so stinking worth it. Aroo!